What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. As we wrap up the ACC here, we're going to look at the projected records and what the standings could potentially look like in the ACC. Again, based off of our projected records. These are not predictions. We'll be doing our predictions very soon, but these are based off of all the predictions, our projections we've been doing since January, and we've gone through every single team. So if you want to get more info on a specific team, you can go back and watch that video. We're going to start at the top, and I'll explain what's going on here. So I wanted to put Notre Dame in the video here just because they're independent, and this is the conference that they are affiliated with. But yes, Notre Dame would be 9-3, which would be the best record in the ACC. And you see Louisville at number 1 at 8-4. We have several other teams also projected to go 8-4. The reason why Louisville is ahead is because they actually are projected to have a better conference record, simply because 2 of their losses figure to be potentially in the non-conference. They have a pretty easy conference schedule. So that's why Louisville, I think, has the best chance, at least looking at the percentages and everything. They have the best chance of getting to the ACC championship because their conference schedule is pretty easy. They've got Clemson and they've got Miami. That's about it. And so, yeah, the conference schedule works out really well for Louisville, but the non-conference is tough, having to play Notre Dame and also having to play Kentucky, who they can't seem to beat lately. So, yeah, Louisville expected to be at number 1 in the standings, but overall record, which is really what we did these projections based off of, they would actually be tied. So 8-4 for Louisville, and then the other 8-4 teams, let's show them here. It's Clemson, Florida State, Miami, NC State, and North Carolina. North Carolina was not in the same tier as these other teams. So that just goes to show you that their schedule is also very favorable. So North Carolina, another team with a very favorable schedule. Yeah, you look at Clemson, Florida State, Miami, NC State, North Carolina. All of these teams are kind of projected to potentially lose a non-conference game. So all of them could actually be 5-3 in the ACC, because you've got Clemson having to play Georgia. You've got Florida State having to play at Notre Dame, and they'll also play Florida. So odds are they'll lose a non-conference game. If they do have 4 losses, one of those losses is probably going to come in the non-conference. And then you look at Miami. They have to go on the road to play Florida, have to go on the road to play USF. They could definitely win both of those games, but again, odds would say they're probably going to slip up somewhere. And so, yeah, then you look at NC State. They have to play Tennessee, North Carolina. They have to play at Minnesota. So projections for these teams are actually to probably be 5-3 in the ACC. And so Louisville is projected to go 6-2 because of a tougher non-conference schedule and a little bit of an easier conference schedule. So if it does play out that way, I mean, how crazy would that be if we had a 5-way tie at 5-3 for all of these teams to get into the ACC championship? I don't think it's going to happen. I think you'll probably get 2 teams out of this conference to at least get to 9-3. Maybe even a 10-2 team, but I don't know. There's a lot of parity in the ACC, so I don't know how it's going to play out. But yeah, I don't see this many teams. Like, I don't see the top 6 teams all going 8-4. I think you're going to get 1 or 2, maybe even 3 teams to have a better record than that. But again, the projections are very conservative. We only had 2 teams actually to go 7-5, and that was SMU and Syracuse. These teams both projected to go 7-5. And maybe lose a non-conference game. You look at Syracuse. I don't know if they'll lose a non-conference game, really. They've got a pretty favorable schedule. SMU, they do have TCU, so that could be a tough game there. But yeah, these teams could go 7-5, could go 3-5 in the ACC, could go 4-4 in the ACC. But overall record, yes, 7-5 for both SMU and Syracuse, as they are the next couple of teams. Then everyone else is 6-6. We've got Boston College and Georgia Tech ahead of the other teams here just because, again, you have a really tough non-conference schedule, an easier conference schedule. So these teams could wind up at 4-4 potentially in the ACC. Boston College has to play at Missouri. You look at Georgia Tech. They have to play Georgia, who they play every year, and they'll also play Notre Dame. Boston College also plays Michigan State, so that's a pretty tough non-conference schedule. Even Western Kentucky, that won't be an easy win. And so projections, again, would say those teams might lose a couple of non-conference games and wind up ahead in the conference standings. But, again, this is really all about the overall record. And there's Virginia Tech at 6-6, Duke and Pittsburgh. We've got them ahead of the other 4 teams just because their projected win total is a little bit higher. It was just a percentage higher, but still 6-6 is the number. I know a lot of people talking about Virginia Tech and how this team could be much better than 6-6. I hear you. I agree. I think Virginia Tech is going to be much better than 6-6, but this is a projection based off of really last season, and then we just look ahead a little bit. We don't like make full predictions. That's the difference in these projections and these predictions. I can't remember the team who it was now, but there's a team that was projected to go like 6-6 or 5-7, and I picked them to go 2-10. So this is not necessarily what I'm going to predict. But you see Virginia Tech, Duke, and Pittsburgh all at 6-6, and then the final teams at 6-6: Cal, Stanford, Virginia, and Wake Forest. Again, all these teams expected to go 6-6, probably 3-5 in the ACC. A lot of parity expected based off of these projections. Will it play out that way? We'll see. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, all 17 teams in the ACC are not making a bowl game. That's just not going to happen. Probably going to have at least 3 or 4 teams miss out on a bowl. And so, again, these are just conservative projections, and we are wrapping them up here in this video. We'll still have the Big 12. We have to do them as well. But interesting to look at. Love to get your thoughts on the ACC. Let me know what you think down in the comments below.